Well, hello everybody, and welcome once again to the latest edition of the Inworld Review, where it is already, would you believe, the 13th of December of the grand old year 2014. Now, first off, I need to make a few apologies. Yours truly had a severe disruption last week. I spent 6 days without any fiber optics. A very big truck not only ripped the junction box out of our street, but continued up the road, pulling the cables with it. And therefore, rather a lot of infrastructure work has to be done. Fortunately, our ISPs and whatever caught the culprits, and their insurance company is paying for all the repairs. But it is a major operation. Even now, I'm on a temporary line, though an open line apparently that seems to be operating better than ever. So hopefully, we're good today. Also, we are without our regular cameras this week because Inworld, in Second Life, there is a major fashion event going on. It's actually the Avi Awards, the fashion section of it. And I think that ties in also with Relay for Life. And basically, I can see a lot of people hopping in and out of the world as if they're crashing every 5 minutes. And I guess they're all names that I presume are engaged in that enterprise. So no doubt we'll be seeing the results of that on film somewhere in the next few days. Meanwhile, I'm actually recording this show, an offline version, which I always do. And Tara, wonderful Tara, is actually streaming to you folks over on live stream. And I've got it on my monitor and it all looks wonderfully fine. Unfortunately, we have found that she can't actually participate with us in voice as a result of this. It's a complicated technical thing, but she is here, she can hear us, and she can comment in the various chat rooms, I imagine, and things like that. So it will be beholden unto me to sort of fill in slightly for Tara. You will notice we have some sparkly sort of decorations around. Those are Tara's. You'll see that the bear, the Inworld Review's bear, has acquired a suitable seasonal hat. Tara herself has managed to acquire a, how shall I put it, a very camera ready jumper. Very nicely textured and everything else. So maybe she'll let us know at some point where she got that from. And I'm also switching my camera very briefly over to the what does she call it? Show and tell. And we have a whole family of what I would call, I will stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I very much think they're what they call polar bears. Very nice they are too, aren't they indeed? So that's a very short show and tell on behalf of Tara. Anyway, welcome to the show. We are, of course, broadcasting live from Chilbear in Second Life. I did get some news yesterday, which I'm not going to say what or where yet, but I think we actually have a sim now to build a studio on OpenSim. So we will probably do a few shows from there if I can actually get a HUD organized for camera and stuff like that. That is a bit down the line, so to speak. So anyway, we're kind of here to bring you news. Now, before I go any further, Tara is obviously here, as I mentioned, unfortunately muted, as it were. But I'll just let you know who's in the studio with me. Apart from Tara, we do, of course, have Maria Korolov. So welcome, Maria.
Hi, Mel. Always great to be here.
And we have a very special guest today who I'm rather hoping might be with us quite often if he can manage it. And oh dear, there's my camera. Yes, there he is in his glorious finery. His name is, Adam01 Time. I think I'll just call him Adam Time, if that's okay. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? I go by Adam01 Time. That's my little handle, I guess. And I'm sure glad to be here and meet everybody, Tara and Maria. And of course, Mal, I've been talking about you all week. Yeah.
In my absence.
I said, "Uh-oh, I broke it." And they found out I was going to be on the show. They immediately went over and dug up your internet line and said, "We can't see this guy."
Yeah. Oh, so it was you driving that truck, was it? All right. Okay. Well, it's very good to have you here, and I'm going to sort of just introduce you briefly. We'll be going some to news headlines before we get into greater conversation with you. But for people who follow my blogs and indeed Google Plus and all sorts of other places, may have noticed that Adam has been doing for probably a fortnight now. Is it a fortnight since you've been doing daily news?
Oh, definitely been doing it. Yeah.
So 2 or 3 weeks anyway, and it's
it was show 19 came out this morning. Show 19, yeah. That
makes it nearly 3 weeks, I guess. So, and it is great because I once did something similar with this Dragon Ash from Metaverse TV when it was going, where we sort of we just filmed ourselves nattering with news items every night, and we put a few graphics to go with the news behind us. But it didn't really get traction. It wasn't quite working. It was a bit of real world news in there, but mostly it was metaverse news. And I've always thought that it's actually a great idea if we've got this program which is news and discussion. But, just the idea of headline news every day. And what you've been doing, of course, is you've been giving those news, but you've also been doing a bit of the destination thing where you visited various places, including Hyperica at Maria's Grid during last week. And even a little summary, for example, on today's show, I noticed there's a little summary at the end where you actually screencast the screen from Google Plus and do a quick summary of what people have been talking about. So you've sort of wrapped up all this in one rather nice little thing, and it's really adding to the sort of the news and focus from the metaverse. So congrats on that, and we'll come back to that in a short while. Now, I quickly have a few links from my main news feed, so to speak, which I've posted into our back channel here, so that you'll be able to see the links at slartist.com when this show replays. All our archive shows, by the way, are available at slartist.com, slartist.com. And this show indeed is brought in to you in association with AView TV, who are the same company as Slartist, basically. So I was, lest I forgot to tell you that at the top of the show, me and my sponsors, eh? Right. So looking at the links, we will be talking with Maria shortly, because there are a whole load of links to, of course, Metaverse Business, and we actually have sort of 2 weeks to cover up, but I've just got a few open here at the moment. My first link comes from a site called Tom's Hardware, and the title of this article is 3D Rudder, that's RUDDER, aims to use your feet as a controller. And this is a strange little spherical shaped device which presumably goes on the floor. Do you remember the old days when typists had dictaphones and things, and they had a couple of pedals they could press? Yeah. Well, it looks a bit.
They still do.
Yeah. Well, it looks a bit like that. The idea is you'll use your 2 feet as an additional controller, which I imagine will be great fun for any rock and roll drummers who do gigs in Second Life, if nothing else. But apparently, this will allow you to use your feet to move directions and things like that in places like virtual worlds. So you can keep your hands free to do whatever you normally do with your hands as opposed to your feet. Yet another piece of hardware that, fits into that grand scheme of things where nothing is yet ubiquitous, but there are a whole load of contraptions around which all mix together, give us endless possibilities. Exactly what we choose to use and when, I don't know. But if you have a treadmill, for example, you probably won't have any use for this. But if you don't plan to get a treadmill, by your workstation, then maybe something like this tucked under your desk, or even under your feet when you're sitting down on a couch or something, will work just as well. So that is the link that I put in there, telling you about it at Tom's Hardware. Next on my list, when my tabs close, I'm actually going to be better off reading this from my list instead of trying to load the pages, to be honest. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, here we go. I had 2 links this week to the Hypergrid destination site, hypergazette.blogspot.com. That's hyperzette.blogspot.com. Several links in the week, but they have one immediately here about flash fiction. Basically, this is about locations on OpenSim to do with fiction. And wherever it's gone, there is another link here to the same site. I'll get to that later. My next headline, virtual reality movies will dominate Sundance in 2015. This is a report you'll find at CNN.com, or rather edition.cnn.com. Again, the link will be with the show replay. And basically, it sounds like a lot of independent cinema offerings are actually working in 360 surround vision, or whatever it's ever going to end up being called. And that virtual reality will actually, environments will actually constitute quite a lot of the material being submitted to Sundance next year, which, again, a sign of the times and the fever with which, almost fever, 3D technologies, virtual reality technologies are being adopted. ReadWrite.com had an article called How Gaming Created a Market for Virtual Real Estate. This is actually looking at, we all know what happens if you're in OpenSim or in Second Life and you go and visit a house, especially a nicely made house. It actually can become your home. It's very real. And, just like the real thing, except it's virtual. And of course, an extension of this is real life real estate brokers sort of creating virtual replicas of, I guess, houses they're trying to rent, or just as architects do it for things they've yet to build. Some of them take the cheap route and use photographic panoramas, but others are actually fully investigating sort of virtuality for real estate dealing, as it were. So you find that at readandwrite.com. In our pay at modemworld.wordpress.com, that's modemworld.wordpress.com, has many articles in the week, she always does, but she has an interesting one called The Great Gatsby, Virtually Redefining Educational Outreach. If you're interested in education or replicas, really, this is very interesting indeed. I'm not actually sure it is a simulation in OpenSim or Second Life as we would understand it. I think their ambitions with this are more of a standalone environment. But very interesting if you're using it, interest in educational techniques, and indeed, for that matter, that great novel, The Great Gatsby. Right, I've done 3D Rudder. Right, oh yes, the other hypergazette.blogspot.com one here is shopping, OKC World 01. Yep, that is indeed a destination, and it's a shopping destination. And I'll talk to Adam about it a bit later, but I noticed in today's show, Adam actually did do visiting some freebie places I haven't seen before. So the shopping is very often free on OpenSim at the moment, except the Kitely and a few other places. So, it's really good to have people rounding out places you can go and get things on the Hypergrid, as well as events that are taking place there. Finally, there is a new issue of the Virtual Education Journal. It's given me a short link here, but if I remember right, it's published at Issue, ISSU, and it's a kind of a color PDF format that works as a sort of flip machine. And VEJ is just Virtual Education Journal for December. Talking of education, next year's in March will be the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education. As ever, we will no doubt get Fallon on here fairly shortly to talk about that. But it was announced this week that Ebby Altberg, him who will be the CEO of Second Life, who incidentally did keynote last year too, will be the keynote again this year with lots of new information. And I guess somewhat more experience behind him, because his keynote last year was delivered probably only 2 or 3 months into the job. Now, article at wired.com, a new and improved $99 VR headset that you can buy right now. Yeah, nothing like a bit of publicity there, is there? I bought when I saw that. I know the stuff's getting cheaper, and we got Google Cardboard, and which I'm sure Maria will cover in a bit. But ready-made. But this is actually a professionally molded, put together VR headset, which I think is one of the ones you use with a phone and slot it in. $99. I mean, if if that's not accessible, what is? I mean, I suppose it's $100 really, but that is not exactly the money you're going to pay out for some huge, great helmet or something like that. It's an affordable price. I can imagine if you get it right now, that'd be on a number of people's holiday present lists, for example. So article there at wired.com, the full link in our chat later. And another article, this one at techcrunch.com, techcrunch.com. And again, if you go to the main site, I'm sure you'll find the links to the recent articles. The headline of this one is "Sound might be the key to touching objects in virtual reality," and this is another kind of projection. Really, we've got things like leap motion devices, and obviously we've got head tracking in some of the headset systems and everything else. But this actually discusses the idea that we might actually be able to reach our hands out, as it were, in front of a screen and actually touch objects. And it would be done with kind of ultrasound techniques. But what apparently will work, and this I found fascinating, is the vibrations of the sound waves themselves. You will actually, you won't just be able to move your hand, and it will use sound sensors to find out where your hand is, but it will create tones or something or other, vibrations that actually allow you in a tactile manner to feel what you're touching. So you could walk up to my avatar, maybe using this system, and touch my avatar's face, and it would feel like you were touching my face in real life, except you'd probably actually have a considerable amount more facial hair to encounter. But that's that's beside the point. You get the idea. So who knows what the future holds? All this technology is absolutely wonderful. If you want, obviously this show and Adam's shows can be found at my Blogspot blog, malburnsannex.blogspot.com. But just a reminder, all the other machinima that we would often run on the Metaverse Week in Review channel, or all the channels actually, along with this show, are now just being simply posted as embeds on another blog, which is malburns.tumblr.com. And there's embeds of, Inworld magazines, a few nice photographs, and masses and masses of films of a varying nature, mostly lifestyle focused. The serious stuff goes on the other blogs, so still got a bit of a divide there. Anyway, that's it for my summary for this week. And I think the first thing I'll do is we'll hand over to Maria for her endless summary of hypergrid business, because there is quite a lot there, I think, after 2 weeks, and then we'll open up the discussion with Adam and get maybe his news headlines, highlights, and a bit of a roundup of the destinations he's visited and everything else like that. So meanwhile, headlines from Maria. Maria, over to you.
Oh, well, thank you, Mal. I hope you guys can hear me okay.
We do.
So first of all, I want to apologize for not posting as often as I normally do, because first, my workload has tripled in my day job, and I'm still adjusting to it. Secondly, there was some problems with an infection or something else on my WordPress site, and my hosting company wouldn't run my security checks until I upgraded every single thing on the site, and upgrading every single thing on the site broke the site. So I've spent the last 2 weeks chasing down incompatible plugins, and oh my god. Anyway,
we're all played this last fortnight, aren't we?
Yes. If it's not one thing, it's another. So that's what's been going on, and don't expect a lot of coverage next 2 weeks either, because it's the holidays. But I did get something done before the end of the year, barely squeaked through. I did my annual OpenSIM hosting providers survey. Now, this is not the same as the grid survey. The grid survey I did in September to get it out of the way early, because everyone wants to vote on their favorite grid. So give them a chance to do that. This was a survey of just the hosting providers. This is where you go if you want to set up your own grid. And we had almost twice as many responses this year as last year, which is a very good sign. But because of the OS grid shutdown, a lot of people who would normally rent individual regions from providers like Oliveira or MA Rentals, they did not vote because they were off sulking because their regions were down. So the people who voted were the ones that were running pretty much their own grids or standalones. And obviously the leading vendor in that space is Dreamland Metaverse. They've been around the longest, and they scored the highest in every category: stability, performance. And stability is, how often does it crash or not crash? And performance is how much lag do you get or not get? Support, and the user interface. This is so the Dreamland user interface gives you the ability to make backups of your regions, create new users, all that kind of useful stuff. You can do it by yourself without having to file a support ticket. So that's very nice. So it scored at the top for all of those categories. Next up was ZetaMex. Now, ZetaMex had more votes overall, but people who were on ZetaMex also rented less land. So there were more people who rented single regions on, say, the Zeta Worlds grid or one of the other open grids that is still open, like Metropolis or Craft or any of the other open grids. So there were more users using ZetaMex. And I think one of the things that people really liked about ZetaMex was they have things like $3 regions, or they used to. So they had a whole bunch of people, come in and do that. But their customers were not as happy as Hypergood business customers. And it's not, I don't think it's any surprise, given that ZetaMex has had its ups and downs. They've had outage issues. They've had website problems. They've had significant changes in their pricing structure. They're like they're not all the way as bad as the Yo-Yo Grid, who we'll come back to in a minute. But they've announced a lot of big plans, and they haven't come through with most of them. So they've promised a currency, they promised marketplace, they promised search. Did they promise a search, or was the other guy promised? Somebody promised me a search, and instead we got a really bad website redesign. So we'll see. They still have. They said they jumped the gun on getting the website up, so it's not really the final version, but. I really liked the previous one. They did a redesign in July, and it was clear, it was simple, it was straightforward, it was very usable. I rated it pretty highly. I really liked what they did with it. This one seems to be a step backwards. But in the third place we had CloudServe. CloudServe is the latest entry to this space, and they made a big enough splash to get into third place, which is not bad considering they just launched, and a lot of the other providers have been around for a while and didn't even have enough people rating them to get into the ratings. But it rated poorly. Of course, they just launched, so they might yet get better. So keep an eye on them. They do have a nice business model. They do have low prices. So it's definitely a company to keep an eye on. So now, in that survey, I also asked people what features they liked best about OpenSim and what features they most missed in OpenSim. And I think this is really interesting. On people's wish list, last year was vehicle physics. This year, vehicle physics was like in 5th, 6th place. The top two things were that people wanted an online marketplace and a wide selection of content. And after that, a web-based viewer, community, then vehicle physics, then currency, better support, and voice was down at under 20%. I think that's really interesting. I think it shows that physics is getting better. We've had vehicles all over the place now. We've had a lot of vehicle scripts being shared, and we've had bullet physics rolling out in variable sized regions. which have addressed a lot of people's concerns on that score because they have no region crossings. People are starting to look for content. So that is, I think, something that every merchant should pay attention to. People are out there wanting your stuff. So give them stuff. Give them stuff. In the most appreciated category, hypergrid connectivity was the single most appreciated feature of OpenSIM. 81% of people said that they really liked having it. After that, 71% said having your own grid. Now, keep in mind that these are people who rent from hosting companies. So obviously, they are going to say having their own grid is really important. Otherwise, they'd be on somebody else's grid and then be taking part in the previous survey rating people's grids.
Yeah.
Next, region backups and low prices were appreciated by 66% of people. Inventory backups were next, followed by the fact that it's open source software. And nearly half, 48%, appreciated having higher prim limits. And the learning from this is if you're a hosting provider, put it right up top on your website that you offer hypergrid, that you let people have their own grids, and that you have access to an online marketplace. The Kitely marketplace is accessible by any grid that has hypergrid connectivity, and also any closed grid can have hypergrid access by configuring its files correctly. And I included a link to that configuration. So any hosting provider, even for a closed grid, can enable Kitely market access. So if you're renting a little grid for yourself and your company, or your TV studio, or your school, you can still buy stuff from the Kitely marketplace and get it delivered to your grid. And conversely, if you're a merchant, your stuff can be bought by schools and companies and nonprofits and everyone else who has a closed private grid somewhere hidden in a dark metaverse that we don't even know about. They could still be your customers.
And conversely, I know on the Hypergrid Safari, of course I didn't make it this week, but the week before, when we were looking at a couple of places on Third Rock Grid, you know, these were specific regions that were hypergrid enabled, even though a loss of that grid is still private. But again, the Kitely marketplace is available, you know, to those particular regions, presumably.
Yes. So so Third Rock Grid is on a hypergrid. We talked about that before. So Spellscape is on a hypergrid. Third Rock joined. I think that the direction is definitely towards the hypergrid. And so I have some bad news for residents of Aviworlds. They have turned off hypergrid for the 4th time. The previous time was in March. I tracked it down. So this is the grid that has tried more business models than anyone else I know. If you recall, they started out with a business model of they're going to have the highest land prices of anybody because this will attract users somehow. That didn't work. They lowered their prices. A week ago, Alexander Pomposelli was telling me that his plans were to have it free for the next 5 years and drive all the other grids out of business. And then 2 weeks before that, he was telling me that he wanted to go back to the high land prices model to create an in-world land economy. 4 days ago, he told me he was selling the grid to somebody else, to one of the content creators on the grid. 3 days ago, he changed his mind. He said, no, sales off. I'm back as a CEO. And then now he's turned off hypergrid connectivity. He says, we've tried it. It doesn't work. Trust me, I know. I've tried it a lot.
I got to say, I remember when he was on this show, you know, and he did actually take, you know, he actually called himself the Yo-Yo Grid. He was very good. He was very good-natured about it. But what's happening? Yeah. I can understand if he's got ambitions to to, eradicate all competing grids. I can understand why it's not an hypergrid, but I mean, you can't change your business model at hourly intervals, can you?
No, what you're supposed to do, and when I did the review of the ZetaMax redesign, I posted a link to it, is when you have big radical changes, you make the big radical change when your previous thing that you're doing just does not work. The previous ZetaMax website I thought worked fine. The previous one that they had before that was not. You couldn't find anything on it. But the one that they did in July worked fine. I think that whatever AviWorld is doing seems to be working because they are getting people in, and those are real people. ZetaMax was the hosting provider for a while, and they confirmed that these are real people that AviWorld has, not alts or bots or whatever. So, and if anybody's going to, not have kind words to say for AviWorld, it's ZetaMax or anybody who's ever hosted that grid.
It's almost like the users of a board and they meet every day and they're implementing changes somehow. I'm sure that's not the case, but it's sort of...
It's like he's got a cult of followers who show up no matter what. Josh Boehm, I think, was the one who told me he was running the grid for a while for Alex Pomposelli. He's like, I'm trying to do some fix or other, and people just keep flooding in. I have to kick them off. I have to get them out of the way so I can do my fix. The people just keep coming. There's all those people. Why do they come? What's there about this grid that makes people come? Especially considering all the grids out there that are struggling to attract people. and here is AviWorld's doing everything wrong, and still people are coming.
Maybe people just see the fun in bouncing. with the yo-yo. I mean, you get this, you see people pile into locations.
Actually,
Adam. Yeah.
I really think he picked the correct name. It's a wonderful name, and a title works really well. In search, it works great. You've got part of Avatar and you have World, and I'll be honest with you, it's a great label, and it's easily searched, and so I think at that point they did something really right there, and step back and look at your label and create a mission and go from there, and that's what I think they ought to do.
Well, they do definitely have a lot of inbound links because he is all over the place. He will comment on every article I write. He's all over the social media. I mean, obviously, he gives me fodder for news articles. I'm thinking, does he do this on purpose? Because he gets into Google News every time he does one of these things. Google News is because hypergrid businesses indexed by Google News. Our inbound links rank really, really highly.
Yeah.
And so
no news is bad. No news is bad news. No publicity is bad publicity. I mean, it reminds me of something like in Second Life where you've got these big events, and they can't possibly hold all the people they advertise to, but people still go, and it's almost as if they enjoy crashing every 5 minutes, and they like to be part of all this trouble.
That's true. Yeah, people want to be where everybody is. They want to see what's going on, what's happening. They don't want to be left out. What's happening on AviWorld. There's always something going on over there. I gotta see this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so maybe he can do it. I mean, there's certain grids that can pull off having a closed grid, no hypergrid, no kindly market. Inworlds is one of them. Second Life obviously can afford to be closed, because it's got a captive audience. So maybe it works for him. Who am I to argue with success, right?
Yep.
All right. So we talked about the survey. We talked about the content. Okay, so I've been working on a story about currency. So I haven't written the story up yet, but I did post a small tidbit. The XMIR grid, XMIR, just joined the OMC currency, which is from Verwox. And the OMC currency has been having a little bit of a comeback lately. I mean, it's been declining in use throughout the year, and now it's back. It had a bad reputation for support and for having an out-of-date plugin or out-of-date module for it, but now it seems to be working. Their grids that are using it have nice things to say about support. And of course, the OMC currency works on the hypergrid. So you can just take your OMC balance and go shopping on any grid that supports it. So, Vervox, which is a very well-established, large, reputable virtual currency exchange based in Austria, they handle all the legal liability issues. You don't have to worry about that because it's not your currency. It's somebody else's currency. You just accept it like you would accept PayPal. But just like you're not liable for PayPal's legal issues just because you accept PayPal, here you have Vervox accepting the payments, and all the payments are actually happening on the Vervox website. You have a little pop-up web confirmation page for every transaction. So there's no actual transactions happening on your grid. So this might be enough to avoid legal liability for using them. Well, of course, none of this has been tested in the courts yet, so it's too early to tell. I'm not a lawyer. I will not advise people to use this currency or another currency. But as far as support, at least, OMC and Vervox seems to be getting their house in order. So that's an excellent sign. Okay, so I want to talk about the Google Cardboard stuff a little bit.
Yes, 500,000.
Okay, yes.
The what? What was that? You're going to talk about the what?
500,000 people have bought a piece of cardboard off Google.
No.
I'm joking, but carry on.
Okay, so Google Cardboard is basically a virtual reality headset made out of a pizza box. Yes, it's true. You can make it out of a pizza box. Google has posted the plans online, how you can cut it out and you can make it. You need a couple lenses, you need a magnet, and you're in business. So, and the Google released a whole bunch of tools for building apps for this thing that work on your Android smartphone. And I'm actually really seriously tempted to buy an Android smartphone now because of this. Now, I listed a whole bunch of sites that sell Google Cardboard, and Google itself does not sell them, but there's plenty of other sites that do. Amazon carries a whole bunch of them in all different colors, shapes, and different formats too. You can buy them in plastic. You don't have to buy them out of cardboard. And there's various types of plastic versions of it in various prices from like $50 to $100 or so. So you can pick one that you like. It's cheap enough that if you don't like it, no big deal. And what you use it for is you could watch videos on a giant screen in front of your face, for example. I mean, no. Say you're on an airplane.
Tara has just asked in chat. We've got to include Tara in this. She's just said, "Is that a pizza box with or without grease stains?"
Well, considering you're going to be holding it on your face, it's going to end up with grease stains at some point or not.
Yeah,
anyway.
might be a tasty experience.
Yes. And with television.
Where's the mozzarella? Yes. Yeah, right.
Yep. Yes. So you can use it to watch movies on a giant screen. So you can take your little YouTube video. It's got a player for it that makes it feel as if you're in a movie theater with a giant screen. Or you can watch stuff in 3D. For example, 3 singers have released virtual reality apps lately. Paul McCartney has a concert out that's in 3D. Jack White has just released a 3D virtual reality app for the Google Cardboard. There's an Elle fashion show. There's all sorts of stuff that's happening. Coldplay has a virtual reality app. So, and you're right there on this concert stage, and you can look around while this concert's playing. This is immersive, but it's passive. You can't stand up, walk over, and pick up an instrument. You're just sitting there. You're like a passive observer at a concert. So there's no interactivity. It's just it plays back in 3D, which I've said several times I think is a great introduction to virtual reality because moving around makes people sick. Because your avatar is moving around, but you're not, and your brain goes, "What the hell's going on? Let's throw up just in case I ate something bad."
Well, it also, as you say, people get used to wearing this thing, and experiencing something passive. Then the leap to interaction will be less when it arrives. Yeah.
Exactly, because their brain will have time to adapt. So, and another benefit of it is that smartphones don't have the processing power to really run a fully interactive, multi-user virtual reality experience, but they're great for playing back videos. So this is a really, really good use case for virtual reality and smartphones in a really inexpensive, accessible, easy to use way, and then gives people what they want. Paul McCartney. I mean, who doesn't want Paul McCartney? So it's just perfect for everybody, and I really think that this is a really great use and introduction of virtual reality for everybody. And speaking of headsets, there's a new Kickstarter for a Canadian company, Cordon Media, that's making something called a pinch headset, which folds up into something that's about the size of an iPhone case. It's like 15 millimeters. It's tiny. And unfolds into a virtual reality headset and comes with a couple of rings that you use for a gesture interface, which is really, really cool. And I wanna try that out once that hits the market. So that's pretty exciting. And
do you know, is that definitely called pinch? I know
yes.
It's called PINC. See with a thingy on it.
I looked it up. It's pronounced pinch.
Okay.
Yes. All right, and another 3D app is out. This is for the Oculus Rift, called VR Chat, and it's now in the Oculus Rift store. And this is like a Second Life or an OpenSim kind of app in that it supports multiple people in one place, but it's not a user-created environment. You build the environment in Unity 3D, and this is a downloadable app that just adds the multi-user part of it to it. So it's a mesh environment. I think it's an interesting combination. I would like to. Unity 3D is a great platform for commercial creators who make like company promotional videos and stuff like that. So for enterprises, for virtual meetings, this is a great step forward. And it'll be interesting to see if they do something with it for the enterprise.
And something that's fascinated me actually is the idea of using things like Media on a Prim to actually bring in the same way you can use a Flash plugin or in Second Life or OpenSim, then to actually bring a Unity plugin, so you could actually use screens in one interactive virtual world to see static virtual worlds and partially extend them into interactivity. A bit like the OSCC, where you had high fidelity. Well, you were meant to have high fidelity on a screen interacting with the OpenSim 3D environment. So
that's a little bit too meta for me. So you're on OpenSim, you've got a video on a Prim that's actually playing a different virtual world that you're interacting with, and in that virtual world that you're interacting with, you have a video screen that's actually playing a third virtual world.
It's called it's that infinity mirror effect, isn't it? But
Yes.
I don't know. I can see ways. For example, you have those photographic panoramas that you can render with Java. Imagine you could make a spherical wall in some way that's Second Life OpenSim, put an audience in the middle, and have a panoramic photo sort of thing. So as you move around, you see the whole panorama. Yes, I mean, it's optical illusions of things, but it does have its uses.
Okay, all right. Anyway, so that's about it for me. So what I'm looking at, I'm pulling in the mid-month report tomorrow. I'm doing it a day early, which, by the way, I should probably email everybody, let them know I'm doing it a day early. So if you are a grid owner and you have news coming up, especially holiday news, send it to me right now, like today, right now.
Okay, doke. There's one thing on your headline page here that, forgive me if I've missed it, but I don't think you covered something about Tangle Grid finding a partner for a new open grid.
Oh, the ATEC thing? Oh yeah, it dropped out.
Oh, okay. It's the most discussed. It's the second most discussed article on your homepage.
Okay. So here's the story. Okay, 3D Virtual Web is the company behind CloudServe. It's also behind Game Tokens, and Virtual World City, and the Alpha Town Grid, and a bunch of other projects. I mean, a lot of projects. So it's a whole bunch of individual LLCs all doing various virtual world things, none of which, as far as I know, I'm sure they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but none of them have really gained any traction. And I've been covering this for 5 years now, since I first started doing hypergrid business, and they've had several attempts at grids, at currencies, at searches, at directories, at all sorts of stuff, and none of it has really taken off. So I'm really hoping that the CloudServe one is going to do well, because we need more hosting companies. And also the CloudServe project is the first one that I've seen that has a reasonable business model. They're offering a reasonable service for a reasonable price, and they're marketing in a reasonable way. I cannot say the same for some of the other stuff that they're doing. I do not understand how their virtual currency works. And I had been covering the financial services for 15 years on my day job. And that's a lot of what I've been writing about, is the compliance and all the other issues. And I don't understand how these guys are doing it.
If you don't understand it, who does? Yes.
So yeah, they have some they have a few weird ways that this is set up that just kind of makes me worried about what's actually going on. They have like third-party exchanges where the currency is actually being exchanged. But if they're licensed, then why do they need the third-party exchanges? Do the third-party exchanges, are they also licensed with FinCEN? So it's this weird kind of legal muddle that, like I said, I really do not understand how it works. So so they got together with Tangle Grid, because Tangle Grid had their Tangle OS grid, which was a separate open source grid that was free for anybody to connect, like an OS grid kind of thing. Because right now, most of the free to connect grids are all in Europe. So if you want an American grid that you connect to, there really wasn't a lot of choice. So Tangle Grid decided to open one up. CloudServe came in and offered to be a partner and provide the hosting for this. So they shut down the Tangle OS, not the main Tangle Grid, just the Tangle OS open grid. They shut that down and reopened the ATEC grid, which was a joint project between 3D Virtual Web, which is the CloudServe company, and Tangle Grid. And so and they had a split ownership. So Tangle Grid owned part of it, and 3D Virtual Web owned part of it. Well, the Tangle Grid, the first thing that happened was they lost their PR person, and he was on here 2 weeks ago. The guy who runs Current Journal, Winter Silversmith. Winter Silversmith.
Winter Silversmith, I think.
Winter Silversmith. He's gonna kill me when I come home. All right.
Okay.
And so he left because he didn't know what was going on. And now Tangle Grid, the owners themselves, pulled out as well of the whole project. And so ATEC Grid is kind of now by itself. I haven't seen, I have not heard any positive things from any users of the ATEC Grid. And because 3D Virtual Web has a history of fudging the user numbers on their grids, I'm not going to trust their statistics on the ATEC Grid. So
I think I've seen the name's familiar. I think I've seen reference to it. There may be the odd video that's been covered there, or Hypergrid.
Oh, Adam. Yeah, they contacted me a while back and said, "Hey, would you come in and do a do a video on us, do a a routine on us?" And I went, "Well, okay," but I thought I already did one, but on my show, I did a landing there at ATEC. I had some great bloopers from that also. But
that's probably why I saw it.
I had a long talk with the other day. If you guys want the scoop,
sure.
I mean, I did. I sat in there for a long time talking to a certain avatar that I'm going to try to remember the names, but I'm blonde, so I never remember names. I'm very good about leaving my sources out, but the source is this. They've set up a currency, obviously, and they're handling the currency and the transactions and stuff. And, ATEX is designed to be a gateway. It's going to be a gateway, is basically. And it's as you know and I know, I think there's no such thing as virtual banks, by the way. It's illegal. As far as I know, in the United States, it's illegal. Boom.
It's illegal everywhere.
Second Life found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
And they had to close a lot of stuff up. But this is an outside type of banking situation, and they broke it down, and they're very well known, and they're one of the very few trusted with Linden Labs also. So there's some really good minds in ATAC. Now, is it going to work? I don't know, because they sent me a note, and I said, look, what you do is you sit down a note card and you tell me exactly every step you want done. What is your main goal in this presentation? What are the words that you want said? Because I'm a talking head. When it comes down to being hired to do something, I'm a talking head, and I want it presented correctly for you. And, that was a week ago. And, that was a week ago. So
and yet, nothing else.
Wait and see. We'll wait and see, and we'll wait and see. So I'm not putting them down. I'm just saying maybe they haven't figured out their goal yet.
Well, actually related to this, of course, is Maria gave us a perfect segue, of course, because you are based in Tanglegrid, aren't you?
I am. I am based in Tanglewood. If you want to hear,
you're in Tanglewood.
I went in there. I went into Tanglewood. I call it Tanglewood. I always give Leslie a hard time. I remember. I think Leslie is one of the owners or founders of that, whatever it is.
Yes, she is.
She's great. I remember going to work for her. I lasted a week. She fired me and said, "Get out of here." That was on another grid. And I did. I said, I can't be treated like a number over here. And she's like, yeah, you're weird. Go away. Of course I'm weird. Look at me. I'm sitting over here. I'm in the teddy fetish chair. Look at this. Every once in a while I got to go over and trust me, folks, I'm not into furries yet. But I heard there is a few furries that I've been. Okay, but so what's going on?
Yeah, I must say, you seem to be very fond of the bear. You're stroking.
I know it is. It's See, well, I think he's grinning now. This is the teddy fetish chair, obviously, and not to distract anybody, but try that one then. Hey, no, that one's even better. But what's really going on is that so I get over there, and he's got this beautiful Mr. Wintersmith built this beautiful city over there, and I'm like, I snuck in on his grid. I did, and it was my whole object of having my show. I was going to bounce around. I'm going to sneak in on people's grids. I was going to do my show while they're not there. And I thought it'd be really cool, And so I got caught. I'm in his police station. I'm coming from, DJ Adams 01 time coming to you from the police station at Tangle, Wintersmith, something Hills, it's in there. And I got the clock behind me, which is the worst because you guys try editing videos with a clock behind you. It's a nightmare. All right. So, because you're trying to make this look right. So he said, "Hey, I'll build you a studio." So they built me a studio, and I haven't been able to sneak out of there yet. They've got me. They got me trapped. I did hear he's moving over to the Canadian grid. So it wasn't the core and journal. I guess I can always goof it up. It's the core and journal. It's the CJ rag, I call it. And I couldn't, I can't bring myself because I came in there. I snuck in there, and they welcomed me. Now he's leaving. Going over to the Great Canadian, I understand. And I talked to Leslie. I said, Leslie, I like it here. I like my avatar. It looks weird. I like it. And I don't know what to do. She goes, well, maybe we'll have to find you another place. I said, well, maybe I'll do it from the sandbox for a while and I'll sneak around. And now I got all these people wanting me to come to their grid. They'll build a studio for me. So
I'm saying no more, but if it's Great Canadian Grid, we might be neighbors.
It's one of those things, and it's so great that to be all these people are open their arms to me and welcoming me. It's a wonderful thing, and they're in the open. Obviously, they're in the OS grid because I already have a place here in Second Life. I've been here a long time, and I love it. But the thing is, if I do go somewhere else, and if I am homeless, it gets me more interviews, and I'm not able to sneak in. Hey, I'm in Maria's bedroom today doing the show from here. Hey, let's check out the top drawer of her. There
is. I've got to admit, there's a great feeling to actually, when you're not on a hypergrid safari or something, to just go somewhere on your
Yeah, you
own,
know?
rooting for freebies or something, but then think,
Exactly.
I'll just film a little bit of this. And then, you know, a CEO or somebody wanders in and suddenly
Exactly.
your freedom to rant is
Today we've snuck into Rosendale's back room and we're doing it in his garage. Here's the show, you know. And but I got caught. So, you know, once you get caught, and then you don't want to abandon a grid. You really don't want to just, you know, I mean, just because somebody leaves, I don't. You know, I mean, if I have no, I think Mrs. The couple that runs that, they are very good business people as far as taking care of their books and dotting their I's and crossing their T's. There's no doubt in my mind they're really good at that. They really are. And you know, it's interesting to see what's going to go on with Tangle. It really is. And what a Tangle, weed, whatever. It will be fun. It'll be fun to see how it plays out because, you know, I'm in show business. You know, guys, don't take me serious.
Well, no, I think that's you know, this is one of the wonderful things about the show you've been doing. To be honest, it's you know, you know, especially the first shows, you know, hey, it's Adam here on Tangle Grid and what blah blah blah. But in fact, you know, you do have that flavour, sort of just jumping around. I mean, that is, you know, and the hypergrid is so vast. You know, I keep thinking there should be somebody filming the hypergrid safari every. Well, some people do, but not as a program. You know, because there's just endless places that you end up and get totally surprised. You know, I was looking at the blog from the Hypergrid Safari last week, which I couldn't make. Oh, actually, I possibly could have done, but I just got back online and everything was chaotic. And, you know, I've seen the photographs of all this stuff and think, oh, of all the ones I could have missed, that place looks, you know, great. But, you know, it's sort of just jumping in there and seeing things and cover it. There is, I think it was you, Adam, that corrected me. I was, for some reason, I thought the name was a she, but Leighton Marjoram, he. Actually, I've only seen 4 so far. They don't seem to have kept it up very well, but they were doing a daily destination on OpenSim that they were.
Well, he's a rather cute bunny, I would say. You know, Leighton is. He's a cute bunny. And you know, it's one thing I will say is, and when he got up there and spoke, obviously Leighton was a very, very deep-voiced man, and you know. He's got a cute bunny, though. What you got to give the guy? He's got a great, cute virtual bunny. Hey, go for it, Leighton. I love you, man. I love you, bro. You do great work every day. He's putting out those great pixels, man.
Yeah. Well, I was getting very excited at one point because I thought, here's this guy Adam come along who's doing a daily news show, and here's this guy Leighton who's coming along doing a daily destination show. We're almost getting to the point where we've got, you know, a daily compilation of content that's becoming really substantial. But
You know how I met him was I saw his video come up there. I think it was on Google Plus, and I went to his YouTube and I grabbed his video. Oh, he did a video for mine there, and so I grabbed it off of YouTube, downloaded it because you know, they still see parts of the viewer in it, you know, and it's a nightmare because when I got into this, I was doing it all command line, you know, and I was really dumb until I finally figured out how to do some other stuff, but. I said, well, here's a command line that you can use, and it'll clean that all up. And this is just tell me the size of your screen you're capturing, and here, run this through there, and then you can drop it on YouTube, and it'll be all ready to go. And he goes, "Are you crazy? I'm using Windows," and I'm like, I know, but it's all using FFmpeg. Just type exe instead of the, you know, execute command, execute FFmpeg. He's like, "You're out of your mind." I'm like, "Yeah, obviously I am." But he's really I like it. But he's got a cute bunny. Do
you still use this? Because you are a Linux user, which is very common, you know, in tech. But you know, when it comes to consumers and stuff, everybody, you know, tends to be driven by either the god awful Windows or Mac or whatever. But do you when you're filming the news show, for example, do you use command line for filming?
I do. As a matter of fact, I do a lot. And I'll tell you the reason why. Your graphic user interface on every operating system uses a huge amount of temporary. You guys, everything is cached and then it's redone. So you're using just a whole bunch of gigawatts, gizawatts, and all that cool stuff's going on resources to do very simple tasks. And so to open up a terminal and run the heart of it, it can do a lot of things. I'll be honest with you. There's a guy that put out a program called simple screen capture. Simple. Come on, it's on my thing. And it's great. You download it and you build it and you install it. If you got Ubuntu, I guess you can just grab it and install it, whatever you want to do. And it works great. Does it work great? It works fantastic. And so, I do that a lot of times. But the actual quality of the program, I can't get, like you. When I saw one of your uploads the other day of a 2-hour show, it was like 1.5 gigs. I went to download it. It was like 1.5 gigs. And I said for 2 hours, and I went, oh my gosh.
Oh, grief. Oh.
I went, oh my gosh, for HD to pull him as 2 hours. So I'm like, I can run that script and I can knock about 600 megabytes off that, and you still have the same quality. It's the compression how we're doing it. So and a lot of the graphic user interfaces, you can't just go in there. You can, but really want to make that fine tweak because, man, you know what it's like to upload 1.5 gigs because I've seen it.
Yeah. I actually have a phenomenally high-speed connection, so it doesn't actually take that long. But I imagine a couple of years ago when I had a different system, downloading some of that would be tremendous. If I download stuff, it's normally SD, for reference, and it's got to be something special for me to HD it.
Right. What got me really interested in this virtual world thing was, I think it was 2007, Linden Labs, they just dumped this huge blob on the open source. And I mean, it's huge. You guys, people have no clue how big it is. And then you got Firestorm. That's a whole nother world. That's even though that's part of the viewer, they've got their own interfaces. They've got an extra 200 megabytes of code added to theirs. But they dropped this huge blob of this great code out there. And I said, I bet I can build that. So I grabbed it and I learned it. And just about the time I learned how to get that to build and everything in Linux and everything worked in it, they came out with V2.
Of course.
And then, there was like, oh my gosh, now I got to learn how to do this. And then Oz drops this big thing about auto build out. Now I got to learn how to do auto build, and which handles all the Python scripts. And it's just, and people say, oh, you're a geek, you know all this stuff. No, I just, anybody can do this stuff. And actually, Second Life is very good about documenting all this stuff. You just got to learn how to read and do it. But that's what got it. So then I get in here, right? Guess what doesn't work on the Linux viewers? None of the media. People are like, I can't use voice, I can't see videos, I can't see nothing in here. And so I said, well, okay, you're right. And I go in and I look at what's going on, and they're still doing it. They're building it on a Linux system. It runs good on their Linux system, but how many Linux systems are out there? Hundreds of different systems. So that, it's a struggle for them. So I said, well, you know what? If I can get this thing to run on if I can get this thing to work on about 100 different operating systems, and everybody can use it, I says, I
think we should point out to viewers here that Linux, of course, is often considered to be like an operating system like Windows or Mac, but it's not. They're actually whole, open source variations on the Linux code, aren't they?
You got to realize the viewers actually developed in Debian, by the way, you guys. To develop. I mean,
blank. I draw a blank.
No, it is. It's all developed in Linux, and then it's ported to Windows. It all has to build in Linux first, but we want to make sure it works in Windows better. It has to work. It's got to work in Windows. I mean, because it's just the way it is. But that's how I got into it. I mean, the open source, because it was open source, and then I got into the media side of it because there was nobody who was DJing there's no really decent DJ programs to use to DJ and stuff. And then Ryan came out with MIXXX, which blows away anything Sam can do, which is open source. So I became part of that project and threw a couple of patches that way. And they're like, well, you want to be part of the team? I'm like, no. I just want this stuff to work. This wasn't working. That's all I want to work on. I want to go back and play with my avatar. So
Yeah. I can totally sympathize with this, because you get in somewhere and you just want to tweak it to work it your way, and then you just want to be able to get on with stuff. You don't want to join the troubleshooting team. You just want to fix it for yourself.
And the library WebKit is like a big deal. And right now, that's all going to change, folks. I hope you know that it's all going over to Chrome. It's going over to Chrome SFCF3.
Well, Linda installs it.
Well, everybody follows that. Come on, there's some of the great programmers over there. And now
I used to love Chrome when it came out, and I can't stand it now because it keeps running. Every extension, every tab is a separate process, and it just clogs up.
I don't use it. I use Mozilla. That's what I use.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't use it. And if I do, I build my own Chromium. Which is, by the way, guys, if you guys want to build your own Chromium or build your own Firestorm or Firefox browser, don't. It's not worth your time. Just download it from somebody else, okay? It's like the viewer. If you're not into this stuff, don't do it.
Yeah.
It never would have occurred to me to go and do that. But thank you for setting me straight anyway.
What are you running? Are you running Windows? What? Windows
7.
Okay, so you're running Windows 7, all right? You could build, the viewer's set up to build in Windows 7 really easy, by the way. It really will.
No, I'm not going to build anything. No.
There's a reason why, and there's a reason why I can do it, and it's because it's a hobby to me. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
And I make it work for me. And then other people say, "Hey, that works on mine. Can I use it?" I'm like, "Yeah. Go grab it. Here you go." But the show.
Back when I have a teenage daughter, and when I had to set up Linux for OpenSim, I had her do everything. And watching over her shoulder as she was doing this, sarcastically, she kept saying things like, "Oh, Mom, I can't believe you can't do this," as she's typing these huge long strings of random characters, sudo grep this, and she's like, "This is obvious. Anybody should be able to do this." And I feel like slapping her. I don't.
You want to know what? The thing is you're going to see a lot more of this in the cloud server area. You guys, people don't realize cloud is not new. I mean, cloud goes way back to the days where we used to, where we sit down in college, you'd sit down and you'd use the machine. You're just taking an area, a RAS, and turning it into global. I mean, you guys doing cloud it's a great marketing scheme, but it's nothing new. Okay, It really is nothing new about somebody logging into an operating system.
So Adam, what I really want to know is, you've been putting out videos on an almost daily basis for the last half month or so.
Every day.
Are you going to be able to keep up the space? What keeps you going?
Well, what keeps me going is a lot of good coffee, really pretty pixels. Oh my God, have you seen some of these pretty pixels out there? And hey, I'm taking Teddy with me too. And the other thing that really keeps me going was I was doing some stuff in Second Life here, and for a company called Romance Couture, who puts out some of the best clothing around. Plug. Sorry about that, but I had to. But the thing is this. The thing is that we put out a really good show not too long ago. It wasn't that great. I mean, it really, matter of fact, from my point of view, it was the worst show we put out ever. Okay. But we hired the best. I mean, we hired the best of the best. And the show, it didn't come out what we wanted. All right. It really didn't. It didn't come out like we wanted. And here I am sitting on 1.6, 1.8 gigs of this video that I don't want to put out there. I don't want to put out there. So I discussed it with them. They said, no. I know everybody said they loved it, but we sat through 123 minutes of the most boring fashion show I'd ever been through in my life. 123 minutes of, oh my God. And so
that was a short one. I've sat through.
No, I know.
8 hours of perpetual ag.
So I says, okay. So I says, and so then somebody else pulled that, and somebody else did a video on it, and just glossed it up, and then put our name on it and stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm done over here in Second Life. I'm going to go out there and play in the open grid. So I did, and that's what I did. And I want I have a goal, whether or not I can achieve it or not. Is I do want to bring somebody on to help me. It's going to have to be somebody that I find that's actually going to be fanatical enough to be up every morning and get it done. And so, which is hard to find, Mal. You know that. It's hard. Commitment's the hardest thing. It is. And so, what I really would like to see is the show always have the virtual side, but you want a real life side. And I tried to explain that to the Quran. My first video, my first show that came out, he went knock, knock, knock on my door and said, don't use my name if you're going to put anything real life in it. And I went, whoop, pulled the video immediately, pulled his logos off it, put mine in there, yanked the watermarks, put on a different one. And, here I am, I'm scrambling because I don't want to make this man upset. This man.
This is something interesting, actually. I'd like to ask you about.
That was my first show. And I was like, gosh. So you'll see the very beginning of the show. You'll come out and they'll go, hey, and it sounds weird because.
But how do you import that? I mentioned earlier that I used to do, well, it wasn't so much the nightly show I tried doing with Dizzy Dragon Ash, but I was also on board with a program called NBC News, which we used to do weekly.
Cool.
And it was scripted, and Duza hosted it, and myself and Siggy Leominster co-hosted. And, I dealt with some of the techie stuff and whatever, but Duza always used to script this to include real-world news, too. And this was weekly, not nightly, remember? And I was never quite sure about that because I thought, well, the masses of mainstream news media, if we were doing if we were doing a virtual show discussing real world topics and we had, a radical angle, be it to something that we really thought we wanted to engage with, that would be another thing. But I actually think it maybe worked against getting traction because the leap to somebody listening, especially watching it on the web who isn't really Inworld, between real world coverage, in other words, cartoon heads talking reality, and giving news that's actually about the virtual world itself, it does seem to be a bit of a mismatch. I know you can say virtual worlds, as indeed they are, an extension of reality. They're tools, that we use to enhance our reality. So there's no real divide there. But to jump from a strictly small town news, which news in the virtual world is, to greater news. It's like a program mixing current affairs at a local town hall with world events. And, the leap conceptually, editorially, in mixing those two just seems a wee bit much. And although I'm quite happy to discuss real world issues and especially technology in world, I do tend to try and contextualize, like the greater metaverse is my focus. It includes Second Life, OpenSim, and all technologies and all sorts of things. But I don't try and spread it out too far to lose the context and things.
Well, I'm with you on that. But what I really think is the average person that comes into virtual worlds, because I love you all, is that they're brilliant. And they're smarter than the average person. You're going to say, why would you think that? I said, because they have sat down long enough to think things out. They've actually learned how to use the viewer. After they've been in a year, they're pretty doggone intelligent people. Now, what they've done is they've actually made themselves more intelligent through searching and learning and understanding something. Yeah. So what I've tried to do, and you guys have noticed now that my real life's going to be my thoughts at the end. I want my segment of all of my show to be virtual stuff. And at the very end, it'll be the real life, and it won't be the headline all the time. I want to be able to shock the person like you and everybody else has already read the news of the day, already read everything. And it's like the other day, what we had all this stuff in the news about Cheney and everything, and guess what? We've got a young man who was 17 years old, ripped out of his high school classroom, sat in prison jail for 30 days, a child. Before he could go in front of a judge and say, oh, my God, some kid came home from school, said he was in your Facebook, and he needed an excuse, and he picked you out. That is real news because that happens to everybody. Those are the things I want to do. That's the kind of thing that I want somebody to be thought-provoking because everybody comes in here to escape those headlines. But we come in here to have an experience. My point of view is we come in here to have an experience, and I need that real life to mix with that virtual because that's where the two customers meet. They do it every day. She does it every day with Hypergrid Business. They meet every day. And and that's something that I had to have, and we all have, we all let it out. I mean, if let me ask you, Maria, if that's all you talked about was virtual, I don't think your syndication, your website would be rolling. You have to talk about where they meet, because that's where the market's at.
Oh, when we're talking
actually, what I would personally like to do if I was to doing a video, and I've been thinking about this, is I would like to do filmed in real life with an actual video camera, an actual studio, covering the virtual stuff. I think that there's a growing appetite in the public in general. The 500,000 people who use Google Cardboard as an example, for stuff about the virtual, about stuff about the coming virtual world. I think we're going to see a huge .com boom style thing happening, and that in order to educate people about it, it helps if you meet them where they're comfortable. And a talking heads kind of vlog kind of setup is an extremely comfortable way for them to get the news. And I think an equivalent of that would be how when the internet first came out, people were buying books and magazines titled Internet Life and Internet Directories. We were reading stuff about the internet, because when something new comes along, we want to learn about it in a format that's already familiar to us.
Exactly.
Well, this is really interesting, because it's a shame Tara is not actually live with us on Voice, as it were. But when we started the Metaverse Week in Review, which is like 7 or 8 years ago, forerunner of this program, really, we did just that. We appeared on webcam, and I delivered my news, she delivered hers. We had guests log into the studio, they came on webcam. It wasn't so much a conversation as a series of joined monologues. And I would actually, show clips in between, but it worked. I mean, it was actually technical reasons and live streams performance and things that, eventually it was, because Inworld was our thing, it was easier to move Inworld. But I do quite agree. And actually, for the 2 years we've been running it as Inworld Review in here, I keep saying, well, we should still have a Metaverse Week in Review now and again, a Metaverse Review that we do via Google Hangouts or something, where we can have lots of real world faces coming in and talking about the conversation. And we did for people move on, but we did actually have a lot of traction for that for a while. We have regular people who came in every week and wanted their face on, wanted to add their contributions.
Let me give you a goal then, Maria and you. I mean, a goal. Do you have 2 minutes a day? 2 minutes a day. Sit down. You click your mouse and you say exactly what you feel for your 2 minutes, for that something that you want to say to the people about your site, and you have 2 minutes, and you record that, Maria.
I don't.
And you know what? And you know what? You send that to me, and then I put that on your talking head, and we have Maria's moment. We have the hypergrid moment. Boom, and there you go. And the people are now connected to you. They're connected visually and with the website, and they've got you see you moving. They see your lips talking, and they've got a moment, and they see this powerful, very strong woman discussing business. And if that isn't a market, and if that's not a visual, oh my gosh!
That is a brilliant idea. I mean, in my case and Maria's case, you'd have trouble shutting us up and getting us into 2 minutes. But I think we're really.
No, you sent it to me. I edited it down to 2 minutes. That's all you get. 2 minutes.
But no, I'm sure. Tara said this a lot of times. I'm sure a lot of the traction we got in the earlier days was the fact that these are the real faces behind avatars.
Okay, you guys, you don't understand this. It would take me 2 hours just to get into makeup.
Yeah. I don't bother with that bit, but
nah, I don't think so. All you gotta do is record it. I already got you all dressed up, and we got Leighton. He's in his pretty bunny outfit, and I've got my fetish bear over here. We'll all get along great. Tara, she's pretty quiet about it. She seems agreeable.
Unfortunately, she has no choice this week. Oh dear. Now, to just move on a little bit, actually. I mean, Maria put it to you, sort of, aren't you going to exhaust yourself doing all this and planning a few extra things on top of it?
But, yeah, I am.
I mean,
were. And you're right. You're right. You're 100% right.
But you were also, you were up the other day DJing. out on OpenSim too. I mean, you're practicing DJ as well as news reporting and camera working and editing and everything else like that. So and of course all this coding, which, for want of a better word,
it's great to be old.
Yeah, I would say that sometimes it is great to be old. We're all of a certain age here, at least I am.
Why is it great to be old?
Wait. It's because now I have time to appreciate my time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I spent my world running around trying to do everything all fast and do this, do that. When I stopped, I realized that, I'm really happy where I'm at. That's what you do. And you say, hey, now where's my passion? You're right. It's killing me right now, guys. I'm telling you what, I was coming in. It's taking me 6 hours to put out a show every morning, and it's killing me. But I'm setting up a system where I can get it streamlined down to 2 hours, okay? And I'm setting up a system. And once the system gets set up, I can pass this on to somebody else that can help me do it too. It's and I know it. We're all Henry Fords. We're all figuring out the assembly line somehow.
We must talk offline about this because, if we're doing very similar things and, I'm sure we could arrange a bit of overlap or something. So, yeah. Oh, this isn't a brainstorming session for ideas, but I almost wish it was because there is so much potential here, actually. But yes, I found, for example, last week, it's the first time I just could not possibly do a show because of the circumstance. And I immediately thought, well, the show must go on. The show must go on. That's my motto, the rule, And, I suddenly thought, God, there needed to be somebody who would be my understudy, my backup, who could become the host and take over if all else failed. And the same with almost every element of the production.
I can hear that now. Dun, 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 dun. Hey, there it comes. Hand the more the throne right now. I don't. Mal, there's nobody can do what you do. You know that, and I know that your voice is fantastic. People have listened to you for years, and you're just, God gave us you, and you've done a great thing, man. And I had to go back and watch some of your shows just to make sure that I was goofy enough to be here. No, I'm just kidding. Just to make sure that I could.
It's only the British accent.
Even Johnny had a substitute guest host once in a while, so you could go on vacation. It's okay to have a guest host.
Yeah. No, yes, I'm not saying, give it up. I'm just saying, a backup,
right.
Another me on another server on another side of the world.
Oh my God, you'd be like, you'd leave me in here while you're gone. It'd be like letting Russell Brand in with all the playgirls.
No, I would love to do a show with Russell Brand. That would be great fun. I think we get on like a house on fire.
I vote for that. Yes, I want Russell Brand to be your guest host, your substitute. Yes. Can we make that happen?
Look at the hits he gets on his sites. Oh my God! You know what?
I'll leave it to you to investigate, Maria.
He doesn't answer your comments all the time that you put in there because I did do a big one on Ferguson, and I explained to him the whole history of that area because I lived in that area, understanding Ferguson, Missouri, and that whole history of that whole area of how the black community came into this. And people think, oh, that's one little area. No, this is a huge area. People don't grasp it, that the size of St. Louis suburb area is huge. And so, I sent him a long note on that and on the history of it. And this is what's actually gone on through the ages. And he was nice enough to smile and say, okay, thanks, but that was about it, in a private email, but he didn't comment. It was too long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You haven't got, I love coming on there and getting into a nice debate or something, but you haven't got time to do it with every single person on your Facebook contact list, or whatever. It's just, you can only do so much, as it were.
Would you put you on the spot? Well, I mean, how come you're not going to do a mall moment, the Burns Times, or the Hypergrid moment once a week or something like that? I mean, all it takes is a recording. I can make the talking head work. You guys know how that works. But, I really think that that's something that should be hitting YouTube every day because YouTube came out, what's it been? Are they going on 20 years yet? Getting close.
No, it hasn't, actually. I used to have a website called the ETV, which predated YouTube, actually. And
right. They did. They just didn't know how to do it right. But they, I mean, I really think that people ask me. I mean, when's the last time do you guys really sit down and watch TV? Jimmy, really? Do you?
No, I mean,
No.
I watch usually with Tara here. In fact, you know, a DVD, a concert, or a movie. You know, late at night before bed. But I never watch it. I mean, TV is mind control to me. You know, it's everything's propaganda. I mean, you know, it just in terms of its limitation, what it doesn't deliver. You know, news doesn't deliver, and you know, and the way programs are fed to. You know, a very false method of entertainment a lot of the time. Piped laughter and things like that, you know.
Look what Young Turks has done. I mean, everybody has seen Young Turks. I get a lot of material from Young Turks. They're into it. They, you know, not everything's great on it, but they're 24 hours now, and they're killing them. They're killing the big five out there. They're killing them. And what would that be like to see that in a virtual show? I mean, it's going to happen, and I'm going to tell you why it's going to happen. Is because we can present the product easier in virtual world than you can in the real world.
Exactly.
Exactly, and that's why the studios went to Linux clear back in the 90s when Linux became big, is because the ability to do this through licensing and your first grids were all built that way. Most of your Hollywoods do almost all their big stuff in a Unix and a Linux-based systems, but you have to go look that up. It's amazing. You know, you got Pixar, which was which was Mac. All right, that's Mac. Yeah. That was Mac. That was his baby. That's what made him a lot of money. Jobs a lot of money while he was being told to sit down and be a good boy for a while. And but you know, that's all built in Unix. You know, I mean, they use the Darwin kernel. That's all Unix, and so it's the reason why. And I think that we're going to see the virtual world used as the biggest marketing tool there is, and maybe I can do it one time right, one time right, just maybe.
Well, I know. I post, you know, on the Tumblr blog, you know, that I'm now putting all the videos instead of downloading them and uploading them to a channel, which nobody watches as a channel. You know, I just put embed codes on the blog instead, and there are actually quite a few. The Angry and Honorary show, for example, is one, which I think they do a machinima show. You know, like this, not very as well filmed or produced, of course, but, you know, every 2 weeks. But all they seem to do there, and I can never watch it half the way through, I sort of approve of what they're doing, is they seem to be talking about the latest films in Hollywood. So they're addressing, you know, it's like, you know, a show about the movies, but it's all filmed in the virtual world. It doesn't get traction from me because, quite frankly, the presenters are not engaging for my personal taste. But, you know, the idea of it, you know, it, to me is fine. You know, it's just another talk show like radio, but with pictures, you know, because you've got the virtual world element and you can put up slides and, you know, posters and things while you're talking. So, you know, I think addressing greater issues is still, you know, a very good way. You know, of using, you know, virtual world broadcasting. In fact, it is probably, ultimately, it is, I agree with you, it's probably a more fruitful way of using it than just doing a show like this, which is concerned with the news and technologies behind what we are actually doing, as opposed to the greater...
I don't, you know, my whole life I've tried to simplify things. And I want you all to know one thing, is do we all love Charlie Brown? Think about it. Do we love Charlie Brown? Wasn't he the greatest guy? I mean, did we all grow up with Snoopy?
No, I hated him.
Well,
I didn't like him.
I'm in Britain, and of course, you know, when you talk about Young Turks and things, I haven't a clue what you're actually talking about. But
I hated Lucy. Okay. I didn't like Lucy.
We have Rupert Bear. I think he looked a bit like Charlie Brown.
Did we not grow up loving Mickey Mouse?
Oh yes, I remember him.
I don't like him either.
Did you like the Roadrunner?
Roadrunner. Oh, I'll take Savory.
No, I like the wolf, the coyote.
Yeah,
he
the
always
coyote.
had the best plans.
Yeah, him and the Acme Company. They wore that. Yeah, they wore him out. Do you understand what's going on? We grew up identifying with cartoons. We got a whole generation that has grown up looking at animation. And what are we in front of you right now? We are an animated program is what we are, with our voice behind it. And it hasn't changed, but we're able to manipulate the pixels much easier now. And people trust it. People now trust that animation a lot more. They trust it because it's not a person. They don't see it as a person. They see it as an icon.
But they're slightly different here. They also, you've got to remember that avatars, and although it looks like cartoons, these avatars are inhabited by us, real people. And there is a certain amount of expressionism that we project our real selves through these avatars. A cartoon was only ever drawn, like in storytelling, preconceived, pre-modeled, and whatever. We are used to the cartoon format, but we're not used to the kind of improvisation and personalization that we can do with avatars, even though they may look like cartoons. And I think that's a very big difference. We are.
Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth now. Did you ever watch the cartoon, The Jungle Book?
I imagine I probably did as a kid, but I can't remember
it. The bare necessities?
It's like It's like Fantasia.
Did you cry? Come on now. Did you cry when Blue fell down? You thought Blue was dead. Now you almost cried.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not denying that storytelling can't be great with cartoons. I'm just saying that virtual worlds bring something extra to it because we are inhabited cartoons rather than, I love machinima and storytelling and everything else. That is great. That's one aspect of what we can do in virtual worlds, inhabited machinima. But I believe that when we're, I'm looking on my monitor at you now. And your head's moving, your lips move a bit when you talk. I could just say that is a cartoon, but it's the nature of what you're saying and the way we're saying it that takes it to a level that is far beyond a scripted cartoon. If you
right now, now we're going to grow up. So here's my problem. I got the master here of communication. I got this brilliance of businesswoman here, and Tara. I just wish I knew you more. And the question is next week. You know what? I've had the hardest time trying to get anybody to discuss the adult side of the industry in here. Just it's. I mean, if I'm telling you what, you can't get anybody to discuss the adult side of this community. I mean, you go in there.
I'll discuss it.
Yeah, same.
No, I mean, you want to find somebody that's actually part of that and discuss it. An actual avatar. That is really actually, you go into a certain sim, and I went in. Of course, I got my voice on, and they said, we don't voice in here. I'm like, why? Because you start voicing, baby, that's money. You know what I mean? I'm like, here's $50 worth, blah, 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 blah. And just kidding.
Yeah.
But it's an avenue to trying to do a show on is the Pixel Avenue. The avenue to real love? Is it to prostitution or is it to cybersex? Is cybersex? I can't get nobody to talk to me about this stuff. I can't get the people who are actually in the industry to talk to me about it. And it's been a struggle. So keep an eye on the show next week because it might cost me some money to find out. I may have to.
I mean, there are. I have come across people in World. I have come across people in World in Second Life anyway, who have actually in the past been willing to talk about that. I know one of the crew on an old show called Metanomics many years ago. But her reason, her principal reason for being in Second Life was she was an escort. That's what she did. She just did virtual escorting and charged for it. And, no holds barred, I guess. She was more than willing to talk about it, though on the few occasions I saw her, it was normally at a Metanomics meeting talking about, code and the future and stuff like that. She had a brain on her head, She wasn't just there to play the bimbo, if that's not an offensive word. But, she was, away from the arena of Metanomics or something. She was more than willing to talk about it all. And very intelligent too, rationalizing it. So
right. You're gonna have a problem where a lot of people who do the adult things or alternative things in World do so on an anonymous or pseudonymous basis, because it's not something you want to go public to like the whole world. This is what I do. You don't want to talk about stuff like in front of your kids or in front of your grandparents or whoever else may be watching it or your coworkers. Because if they find out they will watch it, and they'll tell it to everybody else who knows you, and all of a sudden you're this little minor celebrity in your church. So,
but they're all on Facebook anyway.
Well, yeah, but they're under. If you bring voice into it, which is extremely recognizable, you're gonna have a problem. So you're more likely to get people willing to talk if they talk in chat under their under fictitious names, so that they're not recognized by their fellow people at their church, or at work, or their business clients.
I'm with you on that, and I'm working on that. Everybody out there, Teddy Bear, don't hold this against me. I've been working really hard at this, and I'm not going to spend much money on it, but easy, boy, easy. And I tell you the truth, there's another gateway to real life that's going on in here, and I'm not going to touch that because I don't want to give up what's going to be coming up in the future. But we're talking about real life and how it meets. How this 3D actually goes into another service of real life, and that's a whole nother story. I think those are the things that are real life that are happening here and here. People. Another thing is security. I look in security. I look at a lot of things, and there's a lot of stuff that where 3D does meet the real life, and how do we keep security? How do we have virtual world? What's the use of having a virtual world if everybody really? I feel sorry for you, Maria. First thing I was you, I would make another avatar and go have fun, because I don't want that. I want that anonymity. I don't want to be known who I really am in here. I've already got a couple of crank phone calls and stuff from different forums and stuff. That's enough.
I don't mind. People call me up in the middle of the night because my home phone number is listed on my website. They complain about the coverage. And it's like, I'm sorry I lost your email. Resend it in the morning. It's the middle of the night. So yeah, it happens, but that's okay. I really don't mind.
Well, like you, I run a business out of my home, all right? And so how well I know at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's at my door because they know I run a business out of my home. And again,
I have 2 dogs.
Yeah, since I do run a business out of my home, and I do some pretty salacious things on this show that I will be doing, I really don't want that always to be known. Once they knock on the door and they hear my voice, they're going to say, "Hey, yeah, you were with Teddy Bear last night," And so, I respect that. That's the first thing you respect is your news source. And when somebody says, "I want my privacy," I want that privacy, and give it to them. You know what I mean? Give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use, just offhand here as well. We do actually have things like voice morphing available. I've actually come across a couple of Skype calls where it's been necessary to disguise a voice, so that it's not hopefully not too heavily, but just enough to make sure it's not recognizable as an RL person or another identity, should we say? So there's ways around all this.
What's the name of that chap that's over there in the UK? Did all the WikiLeaks. He's over there in one of those embassies over in your country. What's his name? Saj something. What's his name?
Oh God, not Snowden. The other.
Assange.
Yeah, he's not British. Swedish, I think. But
that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna. You know what? That is the only way he can get around right now. You know what? He could put a virtual doll out here, virtual 3D. Let's get him over on the 01 Time Show. Let's get him on here. You know what I mean? And have him on here, son, and do a virtual show with him. Now do you see how important it is to have that to have the anonymous, but yet to be seen and still be anonymous? It's kind of weird,
And it makes you think. I would just say, well, apart from what's his name we were speaking of earlier, Joe. I was going to say Joe Brands. That's somebody else completely. But that one person I'd really love to just do an interview with on a show like this. Tim Berners-Lee. So Tim Berners-Lee, for example. Mm-hmm. But how could I possibly get him?
But you can get the hypergood equivalent.
Yes.
Eva Cantor, Krista Lopez.
And Krista
inventor of the hypergood metaverse.
Indeed.
Krista
is just so evasive and busy.
So if I get him on the show,
if I get him
on the 01 Time show, you guys gonna watch it?
Oh yeah.
Mal, if I get him on your show, you're gonna watch it? I mean, of course you are. You're gonna be there doing it.
Yeah, and I might even watch it in replays. Yeah.
Why are we not asking these people? That's what's going on. Why are we not? And that's what 01 Time's about.
Well, this is old history now, but when I was working with Metaverse TV, with them, I had the Crossworld show, an interview show, but I had an idea which I think would actually appeal to you. What you've been talking about, cartoons and everything, is many years ago when I was a bit younger, I worked in comic books. Almost before the age of graphic novels and things. Over here in Britain, it was very odd. We had all the superhero macho stuff coming from America, and we had the more sort of subtle cinematic sort of bande dessinée from places like France. But it's very interesting times. And I suddenly thought, you have these days, you've got comic strip authors, great writers like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore, and you've got illustrators, Brian Tolbert, and the list could go on. Some of which I actually know from the old days because back then nobody knew them. And I actually had this idea of trying to build a thing that will be a bridge between cartoons or comic strips and the virtual world. One of the ideas I had, but I did actually ring up a few people to see, or contact a few people to see if they'd be interested, but they all thought it sounded like an awful lot more work. They're quite happy to travel across the country to do a TV interview, but they didn't. They thought it sounded a lot of work to set them up to come into a virtual world. And what I actually wanted to do is I wanted to take well-known authors and I wanted them to inhabit their own characters and do like an interview Q&A kind of thing where fans would be able to ask questions of the author, but ask him questions of the author in the character he authored, if you see what I mean. I thought this was a great idea, and I thought this is great outreach too, because if you've got a big name in there, the replay will be watched by all the fans of that writer or the fans of that artist. But I made quite a few calls, but I just couldn't convince any of them that this was somehow, and it's an interesting experimental project.
I think it's I think that's a brilliant. I mean, it's a brilliant product. I think it's a great idea. But I'm going to ask everybody here, you especially. We've had all these great ideas in the virtual world. It's a social media. We've had that have just didn't pan out. I mean, I came in here and I wanted to be a DJ. And but I wanted to go one step farther. I wanted video with it, and people were like, "Well, we already got video with that." I says, "No, that doesn't work that way. If you got an hour's worth of concert, somebody logs in halfway through that concert, they see it from the beginning. So just now we're barely getting to the point where we're uploading video like that, where a DJ can maybe start to do that. But that's what I started doing, and it's never caught on, and I don't know why it is. I still the day I DJ and I put up my some of my songs are they'll have the group behind me and I'll sync the lips with it, and stuff like that, or and to use all the media at once, but it doesn't pan out. I mean, how many times have you had these great ideas like you just said? It just seems to just sounds so good to you, but nobody else seems to like it.
well, yeah, I've got a good example there. I mean, what I was considering doing when I was still thinking in terms of traditional television, and I was, collating clips together, this show, but also the people's, and making a playlist TV station. There's a guy who films in Second Life, and he produces long machinima, like anything from half an hour to 2 hours, maybe 3 times a week, but it's completely silent apart from the introduction, and he uses a voice morph too to sound female when he introduces it, and it's good footage, film to use, and he covers 3 or 4 different locations around Second Life in a week, so it's great footage to show people what the possibilities of the environments are, but there's no sound. And so I had this idea of taking things like Jatster's podcast and other podcasts and then dubbing the podcast sound onto these images. So, and everybody said, no, don't like that idea. Don't like that idea. I thought it was a great idea.
I think
it's
a brilliant idea.
It's picture.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea.
It's picture radio.
I just uploaded yesterday or the day before the video of the 25 contestants of Miss Virtual World. Oh, yeah. People have no idea how hard it is to edit a 2-hour show down to 8 minutes or whatever it was, and make it look decent. And then to find the music that would go with it, like you're trying to do. And then, I got it done, and my best friend in the world, she's actually one of the models in there. And I said, here, listen. She goes, oh, that music will never go. And I said, well, that's the difference between you and I. I've sat and watched these girls walk for the last week, and the music does fit. And the music does fit because of how it goes up and down. And it did. It worked out great. Everybody liked it. But, what gets me is I think you should do that. Why don't you send me one of those, and I'll just do it for you, man. I'll just do it. Send me the link. I'll download it. I'll steal his video, put some music to it, and send it back to you. Just do it. It would take me only about 5 minutes, man.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that appealed to me was it was a very simple editing job. There was nothing else you need to do, but it was dependent on content to keep a channel running rather than. And I'm convinced traditional television is dead. Video on demand is the way people will work in the future. I mean, we may still have big companies coming in here, sort of corrupting our menus. In other words, they give us 100 choices, but all 100 choices are part of the same monopoly of broadcasting. But I think, it'd be video demand when you want it is the way things are going. People are moving on from the days when they're just prepared to sit and watch a channel or have it playing in the background. I may be wrong, but I think that method of transport is dying.
I've got a question for Maria. As I've watched the technical fields go by, and you're in this a little bit, the hosting. It used to be, the local hosting was the big deal. You go into your town, your local hosts, and you have these, and it was great because you just drive downtown. Or still to this day, I've got a buddy of mine that hosts over here, and he also does copywriting and stuff. And he was actually one of the guys putting out, he was actually copywriting and putting out a lot of Netflix stuff, and these guys, is the cloud going to eat that up? Is it going to be another Walmart eating up the local hosts? Do you see that as a good problem or a bad problem, or am I wrong? I'd love to hear your take on that.
Well, let's see. When I've been on real world TV shows, like in Shanghai, I was a guest on the local TV channels, and it's nice to be able to walk down the street and be recognized. I do appreciate that. I think that you're always going to have local shows, but with local content, and those local shows will get you recognition locally. So I live here in central Massachusetts, and if I were to do a show about central Massachusetts, no matter where I filmed it, no matter if it was filmed in a local broadcast studio or online, if it was about local interests and people were watching it who were local, then yes, I would get recognized if I was walking down the street. When you're doing a show of general interest, that's more appeals to a wider population, that's more geographically disparate, then it's much less likely that you're going to get recognized walking down the street because your audience isn't as concentrated, unless you happen to be one of those people with 1 million followers on YouTube who does get recognized.
Okay. Now who hosts that though? Now what I'm trying to get to is cloud the next Walmart? And that's what I'm trying to say. Is cloud the next Walmart? And what I'm trying to get to is when you go into a Walmart today, you're not going into a Walmart, by the way. There's a huge amount of companies. If you go buy a bicycle, you're actually buying it from a shop called Dynacraft. If you buy a book in there, there is no such. Walmart is a huge flea market. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they really cut into the local stores and local stuff. And now we have local hosting companies here that actually host data and stuff like that. Do you think, and I know, do you think, I'm hoping not, do you think that the cloud is going to be the next Walmart of the internet, because people are gonna. It's going to be you're going to go to Walmart. You're going to go to that cloud.
Okay. If you mean Amazon Web Services or their so Amazon does host a lot of stuff, but there's also a lot of niche cloud players as well. So there's a lot of competition. It's not like Walmart where you have just one supermarket does everything. Although I guess Amazon's the closest thing, but we do have a lot of different hosting services for a lot of other niches.
Thank you very much. That absolutely made sense to me. Actually, the cloud creates their own competition. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So you can go to Amazon for hosting, like Kitely does, or you can go to like DreamHost, like I do for Hypergood Business, or GoDaddy, or whoever you're using. Microsoft runs their own hosting systems. HP and IBM both offer cloud and traditional hosting. And there's a lot of like green hosting, solar powered hosting, lots of regional hosting providers that are local, that have server farms just locally for local businesses. So there's a wide variety of hosting options out there. I don't really.
Well, coming back to something you said earlier on. I mean, you actually said the cloud is nothing new, and I know everybody talks about the cloud and cloud services and all that, but I actually don't really. It's not so much it's not new. I think the very phrasing of what we're talking about there is actually wholly wrong. I mean, any FTP site that's ever been there is storing in the cloud. Ever since we've had active web pages and these days apps that can work on the web, any website is out there in the cloud. I mean, what server it's on and how it connects and everything is varies, but in a way, the whole internet is about accessing a cloud. It is primarily the connection between machines. But the interim layers, the website hosts and things like that, have always been to a certain extent the cloud. My worry, we don't really have a tradition of, say, TV local broadcasting in the UK, but although we obviously have local radio stations, we're much smaller. But my worry, even here, is that a lot of this stuff, they're building smart connections into televisions so that you can get to Netflix and get to YouTube's and get everything online. As the traction for traditional television, shall we say, is fading a bit. But it still worries me that the big players are going to move in to monopolize. And it's not so much they'll prevent us going to places we want to go, it's just they'll adjust the menu system to disguise the places we want to go. And we'll start having the kind of menu system to get to the web and even maybe virtual worlds where our supplier starts dictating choices that they put into their system. And that is actually what worries me more, because it's some content may be in a server in Iceland and it may be powered by geysers and all the power sources they have there that cost nothing, or it may be a hydroelectric farm, or it may be a really environmentally unfriendly power grabbing farm somewhere else. But what worries me much more is the manipulation we're getting now of the menu systems. There are big players consolidating, beginning to monopolize, and I'm worrying that a few years down the line, we're going to find ourselves we'll be fooled by vast menus, but under the surface, we may be being guided to things that a corporate menu system, and we're being diverted from the things we really want, like Rupert Murdoch's operation over here, Sky Television, for example. You switch their box on, you've got thousands and thousands of channels to choose from, including some that aren't even theirs. But what is obvious when you really start looking is that what's missing from those thousands that they deliberately keep out of your menu. And they can have a right-wing political discussion on one channel and a left-wing political discussion on another, but in fact you're not even getting that because they've defined the parameters of right and left. And so they're catering for multiple audiences, but they're actually being engineered by active players who draw the lines as to what we can actually see. So I'm more worried about that. And I think alternative forms of broadcasting actually could offer us a lot of potential for getting messages out there and the kind of grassroots stuff out there that maybe will be an alternative to some of that media. Maybe a chat show in the metaverse will actually be able to talk about things that Fox News doesn't talk about, for example. I don't know. It's a questionable thing, but I really am moving to extreme dislike of people with new menu systems, because I think, what I can see what's on the menu, but what's not,
Yeah, I'm with you. And tell a producer, yeah, at times running late. Isn't it great when you get all these brilliant minds together and some guy with blonde hair that really doesn't know nothing but how to talk?
We started late, but we are approaching the 2 hours, and for some reason,
we really have.
I think our live stream was actually cut because it's only showing 20 minutes on my monitor.
Oh no!
Well, it means I've lost track of but yeah, I think we've been on for about 2 hours. So I think
I think the scariest thing that's about cloud is it's what happened to Ubuntu cloud. Come on, guys. Nobody did one story on that. It was very small. It was just only in there. It's gone. There's no Ubuntu cloud. I mean, everybody started with the Ubuntu server. Ubuntu server. Everything runs in virtual. You can run all your different operating systems within that server. We all know that. But once it's gone, that database is gone. And they said, look, you got so long to get your database out. But, grandma that probably started 10 years ago, she doesn't know about it. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing.
You just reminded me.
What kind of grandma do you have who started an Ubuntu cloud-based database 10 years ago?
Well, you're not. No. A Google Chrome laptop. Let's just say it. I mean, just down the road, if grandma starts one, or today grandmas are pretty young. They're in their 60s, or even less, a lot less, and they start a Google Chromebook, so everything's in the cloud. They start out with that, and then just for instance, is what happens if Amazon was tomorrow gone?
Yeah.
I mean, really, what would happen? It's one of those things where now it's so involved with our lifestyle that is the government going to bail them out if they ever failed?
Oh God! Don't even want to think. Yeah.
No, this is why you have local backups of stuff. Or if you're an enterprise, you can actually back up stuff from one cloud to another cloud. And people are doing that. There's third-party services that will connect you to multiple clouds. So whichever cloud has the cheapest offer for the particular time of day or whatever, they will actually move your stuff to that cloud for you.
Yeah.
So if you're really big, you will do that. If you're a small person, you can just make a local backup of your stuff. And if you're using cloud services, I strongly recommend you do that.
Right. Okay, we're getting very technical here as well.
Oh, is the show still on? I thought we.
No, we are still on. We will go silent as I wrap it.
Teddy Bear, I'm so sorry.
It's I have to think of our viewers. I have a feeling that when we get too techie, some of them will probably fade out. But there again, it is the end of the show. So welcome. You can fade out now, folks. Right, I'm gonna wrap up. Adam, we're gonna have you back. In fact, I think I'll make you my deputy, so that if I'm offline again, you can you can have my seat.
Can I sit in your chair?
I'll deputy for you, maybe. Who knows?
I gotta have your chair. Oh, please.
Anyway.
Are you gonna wear his clothes?
Oh God! I actually have some similar kit somewhere. But you know me.
I do have a great Nico outfit, though.
I just. Oh yes, I was hearing you saying that on your show. Right today, going in search of tail, wasn't it? Let's change the subject. Yes, indeed. I do have other costumes, but one of the beauties of the virtual world is I don't need to do any laundry, so I just tend to stay in my present.
I have to sit next to you, Belle. So.
And
laundry.
Don't tell me you can sniff the virtual smells, because I don't believe ya. We haven't got aromatherapy device.
It's psychosomatic.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, well, look, I do have to go in the wrap. This has been a great show. Despite the fact that, unfortunately, Tara hasn't been on voice, so we haven't stopped, have we? So hopefully we'll be back to normal insofar as having Tara on audio next week. My many thanks indeed to Tara this week for handling the streaming side of things, so we know we've got backup recordings if needed. thanks as well. Just before we go, I always do this. I'll start with you, Adam, for in 30 seconds or less. I had wanted to mention all the places you've been visiting, and we didn't even get to that. So I've got to get you back for just a destination show, I guess. But anything out of the realm of what we've been discussing that you're looking forward to in the next week, or a highlight of the last week, something, to go out with that you care to mention?
Yeah, I do. Every one of my shows, I loved them, and I did a great time. I had fun doing it. Don't ask me wherever I went. I went to too many places. I'd have to. We don't have enough time. But I'll tell you the truth. I fell in love with Craft World. I fell in love with Metropolis, and I fell in love with. I'm going to try to say it this time. Don't get mad at me. I believe it's Salise Mesh. Her Winter Mesh place. And she has a great tutorial on Blender, which I'm going to take because I've been working in Blender, but never took it serious. And a good friend of mine and we're going to sit down. We're going to take it serious. Get over there, and that's the place to be. If you're going to play with pixels, learn to do it right.
Yeah. Okay. Maria, any final comments?
So tonight, if you happen to be watching the show tonight or tomorrow, get in your information about the upcoming grid event statistics, new grids. Send them my way, maria@hypergridbusiness.com. Also, I'm going to try to do a survey probably next week. Get it out before the holidays. Your favorite freebie destinations on the hypergrid.
Yay.
So everybody has freebie destinations. Don't keep them a secret. Let the world know. I know it'll mean traffic and lag, but man up, deal with it. Send them my way, maria@hypergridbusiness.com. There's also a survey online. I will post a link to that as well. It's also being discussed in the OpenSim Virtual and Hypergrid Destinations groups. So check those out. Highly recommend them. They're Google+. Great places to go for finding stuff out.
Great. Okay, well, so yes, indeed, all the news as you want it. You can check out hypergridbusiness.com or indeed twitter.com/hypergridbusiness or indeed twitter.com/metamaria works too. Also twitter.com/malburns for general metaverse news and twitter.com/malburns_writer. For sort of in-world specific things, more focused on Second Life than elsewhere, the social lifestyle stuff. And that is about it. I should say that if you can't wait for us to come back next week, to check out Adam01 Time channel. Is that not right on YouTube?
Yeah, that's Adam01 Time or Adam0 Time, however you want to call me. Just Google it up and 01 Time. Come on and see it, and then and everybody send me a message says I want a mall moment. I want a hypergrid moment with Maria, or vice versa. However, but we want it on a Tara. And
so exciting. But anyway, before we get all these new things off the ground, you can be assured of a daily news bulletin from Adam by checking that out. Adam's posts are also embedded in my blogs as well, and Maria's, I believe. So you'll find them pretty easily. So if you want to watch this program in replay, you may well be already. The best place to go for a full high definition copy that works on your iPad, your Android, your TV, your Windows, your Mac, and probably Linux too. Check out slartist.com. That's SLARTIST.com, and just look for the tab for Inworld Review, and all our past shows are there to be seen in the wonderful, glorious glory, or whatever description you see fit to put on it, really. So I'd like to thank once again. I'd like to thank Tara for filming. She can't reply, but thank you, Tara. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Mal. Always a pleasure to be here.
And thank you, Adam.
Oh. You guys are the best.
Right.
Can I take the bear with me? Can I?
You'll have to ask Tara when we're offline.
We've really become close over here.
She might be able to tell you where to get it.
Yeah, Teddy. Gosh.
Anyway, it's been great to have you, and hopefully we will have you back soon. So without further ado, we're going to sign off. And as usual, I would say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are.